and welcome to another episode of LSVT Global's podcast, Think Big and Loud, where we share inspiring stories, expert insights, and engaging conversations, all designed to empower and uplift those living with neurological conditions and the people who love and support them. My name is Beth Peterson, and I'll be your host for the show. And today's episode features special guest Gary Boyle from Dublin, Ireland. And Gary was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's disease in 2009 at the age of 44 and is now a patient advocate and champion of greater awareness for Parkinson's. I have had the great pleasure of working with Gary in Loud for Life classes, which is how I was first introduced to him. And outside of those weekly meetings, Gary is busy in his role as the Vice President of Parkinson's Europe, advocating for those living with Parkinson's. And he's very passionate about maintaining an active lifestyle to keep Parkinson's at bay. So Gary, thank you for joining us. I look forward to talking with you about LSVT Loud and all the Parkinson's advocacy work that you do.
That's great, Beth. Thank you very much for that introduction. That's lovely.
Yeah. Well, and I'd love to just have you start by telling us a little bit about your background, who you are, and what you've done.
Sure, no problem. So, as Beth said, my name is Gary Boyle. I live in Dublin, in Ireland. I've got my family here with me, which is my wife Joan and my son Dara and my daughter Bronwyn, and they're grown-up kids, but they haven't moved out yet because we have a bit of a housing problem in Dublin and in Ireland at the moment. But I've been in my work. I'm not attending work anymore, but I am still an employee. I'm an employee of the Intel Corporation, which operates globally, as you probably are aware. And I've traveled many places with Intel and lived in many places with Intel. And they're going through a bit of a rough time at the moment. But I'm one of the people who's kind of forgotten but not gone. I'm on an insurance plan that kind of, thankfully, has kind of protected my income and stuff like that. So I'm in that kind of space where I'm not actually working, but I am actually being, taken care of by an insurance company, which is great. My work with Intel was very much HR focused. I was HR manager for different functions within HR, like salary and benefits and staffing and stuff like that. And I had what I thought was a really great job. I mean, I was traveling all over Europe. I was the European manager for some time, and I was traveling all over Europe and the US and stuff like that. But I kind of knew something was up about 15 years ago, 16 years ago or more, when my writing deteriorated into tiny kind of scratches across the paper. My right arm wouldn't move when I'd be walking, and my right leg would drag like I was walking like a zombie. I was kind of in a space which I wasn't familiar with. And it took about 2 years to get to the diagnosis. But in September 2009, on a Thursday morning, I was told, yeah, no doubt, you've got young onset Parkinson's, but don't worry, it won't kill you. And I was floored, absolutely wiped out. And I couldn't make sense of it at all, because I said to my consultant, I said, I'm 44, I'm not 74. And he said, that's nothing. I had a lady in here yesterday, she's 29. And she has it as well. So it wasn't really a great introduction to my new life, but it was definitely a new life. And I was floundering. I just completely lost my confidence completely there and then. I was kind of thinking, what the heck are we going to do now? What are we going to tell Joan? What are we going to tell the kids? Just really, it knocked me for six. And you don't expect, when you're not expecting something that is as life-changing as Parkinson's, it's a big surprise, and it's a big deal. And I struggled with that big deal for a long time. I spent 4 or 5 years literally with my head in the sand, just taking the pills that I was prescribed every month. The pills seemed to be getting smaller, and the blister packs that were coming in were getting more difficult. But that was just a reflection of my deterioration without kind of paying enough attention to it to kind of not let it go too bad. But as things kind of panned out, I mean, one thing I'd say about Parkinson's, it's not a death sentence. It most definitely is a life sentence. This thing is kind of with us, has been with us forever, and it looks like it's going to stay with us for a long time to come. But we can talk about that later on in this chat. But yeah, I mean, so that's where I was. I mean, that's what life was heading to. I mean, I was shaking more and more. I mean, the pills were working to a point, but I was shaking, walking with a stoop. I was actually like the old man of 74 that I thought I wasn't. And that was kind of difficult to kind of deal with. But my wife was very supportive, always has been, and she's an absolute saint. She was saying to me a couple of things. She said, "Gary, you need to deal with this. And by the way, Gary, you need to speak up." And I know we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but
Yeah.
I was just kind of saying to her, "What are you talking about?" And she just said, "You have to deal with this because it's changed your life and it's changing our lives, and
Mhm.
we can't go on like this, and
Mhm.
that's go on like this means, Gary, you're not dealing with it, you're not kind of talking about it, you're not kind of being open to people about it." I didn't tell very many people. I was really ashamed of having this incurable condition. I couldn't, why is this happening to me? I
Mhm.
mean, I ask that question every day, still, 15 years later. So I guess it's a good question, but if I
Mhm.
get an answer to that, it'll be something, you know.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
anyway, I just, yeah, I struggled for a while, Beth. I mean, a long while. But eventually things started to work out. And one of them is work. I mean, I'm in the forgotten but not gone category in work, and
Mm.
it's fine. Um, and I'll stay there until I kind of hit retirement age, and then that'll be that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was and continues to be a challenge, but there are lots of aspects around that where you can kind of go and things you can do to kind of
Mhm.
um, alleviate the situation.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing that journey. I think it's important for others to hear they're not alone. And yes, it's hard. And I
Mhm.
understand that it's hard, but you've also done so many positive things. Well, I know before the diagnosis, but after, to really change people's lives all over the world. So we'll cover some of that in this podcast today. And you mentioned that your wife had said, we have to deal with this and you have to speak up. And you thought, well, what do you mean by that? So, can you tell us a little bit about how you discovered LSVT Loud, and what your experience was with that treatment to help you speak up, like your wife had mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Things happen for a reason, and the happening of LSVT Loud, which I'd never heard of until 2015, and I was kind of thinking, what is this? So I must disclose to everybody today that my wife is a speech and language therapist, so she knows what she's talking about, and it's funny, but she's right all along. So I just want to get all that out there, But no, Joan was by 2015 we knew something had to give, something had to go, because I was suffering a lot of stress, and everybody suffered from stress. But as my consultant said to me, "Gary, your stress is eating up all your dopamine and
Mm,
the levodopa you take and stuff like that, and it's not good. Stress is not good for anybody, but for you in particular, it is really bad. So you need to change the situation." And that really meant kind of getting out of work and figuring out what to do. And work worked out fine. Um, I had to do lots of kind of medical assessments by the insurance company and stuff like that, but they were very good. They said, like, as soon as they kind of saw me, they thought, well, this guy isn't faking it. So, I mean, it was, and it's funny. And my consultant said this would happen. He said, as soon as you kind of go onto that insurance plan, which takes care of so much of the worry that you have
mm,
around, what am I going to do to put food on the table? He said, you'll feel good and your
mm,
medication will work better. And the next thing you'd think, I could go back to work. And then your thing will collapse all over again. So
mm,
just stick to what you're at. So anyway,
mhm,
Joan was saying to me, "Gary, you need to speak up." And I didn't know what she was talking about. Um, I felt that I was conversing normally. And yeah, I mean, if we're in the house together and we're in the same room together, I could chat to her and she'd hear me and all that kind of stuff. But bring it into the open and bring it to, well, work and bring it to socializing and stuff like that. And suddenly I didn't realize it, but my voice is fading, or was
mhm,
fading. It still is, but it's. I'll contextualize that in a second. Um, And I was kind of saying, why why are people not kind of responding to me and stuff like that? And it
Mhm.
was simply because my volume and my tone and all that kind of stuff had kind of gone very quiet.
Mm.
And I didn't realize it because I could hear myself talking in my head. So along came LSVT Loud at this time. It was just it's kind of divine intervention or something. I mean, it's just unbelievable because the health center, the public health center that I'd been going to, really great people, lots of different medical practitioners and healthcare um, professionals, and all really good. But lo and behold, the speech and language therapy department where Joan actually worked were piloting this new therapy
Mm.
from the US called LSVT Loud. And I mean, the first kind of times we heard about it, everybody said, "What does that stand for?" And various kind of definitions were given. But what happened for me was I was actually placed on this program, this pilot program, by I think my either my wife's team member or her boss or something like that. It was just kind of it was pure fluke. And because I'm Gary Boyle and she's Joan Duffy, nobody kind of twigged that
Oh.
we were partners, and it was hilarious that you know Joan said, "What are you doing?" "I'm going to the health center. I'm doing this LSVT." "Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah." And she told me like the people were kind of spouting, saying my name out and stuff like that, and they never twigged that the two of us were together. So that was a bit of a laugh, really. But we start. I did the intensive course that it is, and you make a commitment to do it all, and you make a commitment to do the practice and all that kind of stuff, which is really important. But I'll never forget the first day with Ruth, the speech and language therapist who was assigned to me, Ruth Talbot, who's moved on since. But we had a chat, and she kind of had a decibel level meter in between us, and she spoke, I spoke, we asked each other a question, we just chatted as if we were having a coffee together or whatever. And then at
Mhm.
the end of the chat, she just said, "Right, now let's look at your scores from the decibel level meter." And my scores were, 48, 49, 47, 51. I thought, oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's good. And then we turned over the page and she had her scores on it:
Mm.
98, 99,
Oh.
97, 101. And she wasn't shouting.
Mhm.
I thought, that's a bit of a difference. So I mean, it kind of said because I could hear I was talking till the cows come home, and I was doing great. And I was thinking this is great stuff. This is going to be fine. But I really got a shock when she showed me those
Mm.
scores, and that
Mhm.
made me think, oh yeah, there might be something in this here. So I need to get back to where she is,
Mhm.
and that's what I need to do. And it was really strange because I kind of figured out that in my head I can hear myself talking in my head. That's fine, but I actually need to shout in my head
Mm.
to make
Mm.
sure that you can hear me, Beth, and that everybody else can hear me. And
Mhm.
that's what that was kind of. There was a couple of days there where there were massive breakthroughs. You could call them epiphanies and stuff like that, but let's just kind of call them what they are. Kind of breakthrough number one,
Yeah.
talk louder. Breakthrough number two, do your exercises. Breakthrough number three, listen to Joan. So I mean, it was just that's what it's all about. But
Yeah.
seriously, I did the exercise. I do the exercise. I did the exercise with Ruth. We she. It's really an intensive course, but it's so worth it. And
Mhm.
I mean, it wasn't difficult for me to kind of sell that kind of message to anybody who was prepared to listen. And I know one or two people who have gone now privately and done it, and they've been very happy that they've done it.
Mhm.
So I think it's a case of we need to let people know. I mean, we're going to get into this now, I know, but we need to let people know that this is available. It really is life changing. I mean, there's another thing that I'm involved in that is also life changing, and that's Irish set dancing, which is insane to think that I'd be involved in such a thing. But it's wonderful exercise, and
Mhm.
LSVT Loud is wonderful exercise for your communication ability, not
Mhm.
just your communication skill, but your communication ability to be able to connect with people and keep going. You just remember to kind of up the volume in your head
Mhm.
because that'll really transform the conversation. And
Mhm.
let's face it, Irish people love talking. You know this, Beth, from the time I've been there in the classes. We never shut up. And but we will shut up if people aren't responding to us. And that's the thing that really kind of upsets me that we need to tell people about this. I mean, it's not, you don't need any equipment or anything like that. You just need to listen and be heard, and
Mhm.
repeat what your speech and language therapist is saying to you when you're doing those exercises for the first time. Just stick with it, and it
Mhm.
really will transform your living experience.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I know you had a pretty powerful outcome. And I kind of know the answer to this, but I just wanted our audience members to hear if you've been able to maintain your gains or even continue to improve after you finish treatment.
I think I've certainly maintained,
Mhm.
if not improved. And well, let me put it another way. I know what to do to improve my scores and stuff like that, and that's to really think about what you're saying and how you're going to deliver it. And
Mhm.
for the analogy I always use is the Irish guy down in the pub. I mean, it's a simple analogy to use, but you could say cafe or gym or place where people meet, um, having a chat and realizing people aren't responding. I made a funny comment there. Nobody responds
Oh.
to it.
Mhm.
And you need to kind of say, when you go through LSVT Loud, you realize, okay, I need to actually put a bit of effort into this. You know, now it's not effort that's going to kill you or anything like that. It's not going to be completely tiring, but it is effort that you have to be
Mm.
aware of. That if you put that effort in, transforms the situation for you, and you're
Mhm.
part of the conversation, and that's what we need because that has
Mhm.
the added impact of your brain starts thinking things through and starts to checking things out, stuff like that. Your brain is working, and we need to keep our brains working because that's what we need to kind of keep alive. So to
Mhm.
think that something like LSVT Loud, something like that, as a speech and language therapy program could be so impactful. I mean, that's huge. That's powerful.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, it
Mhm.
wasn't difficult for me to run out to kind of run up and down the streets and tell everybody, and kind of have eureka moments and say, this is really, really good stuff.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
anybody can do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. When I love something you said there about like the guy at the pub and you're noticing if the interaction just isn't quite right. And I'll talk to people that I'm working with about that. It might not be that people say, I can't hear you, or when you go through treatment, wow, what a beautiful, loud voice you have. But people talk about stuff like that, like their interactions are better. Maybe people
Yeah,
aren't leaning in as much, or they're not asking them to repeat as much, or they
yeah,
laugh at the right part in the joke. So it's great to hear you notice that the interactions are improved
yeah.
when you put in that effort. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's great to see that. I mean, when I we had a night out last week for the early onset group, who are a group, another charity in Ireland. There's three charities in Ireland, and this is the most recent one,
Mhm.
eopd.ie, and we met in a pub in Dublin, and it really, I mean, it was fairly busy in the pub, so it was we had to kind of be aware to speak and not speak loud, and not everybody there had done LSVT Loud,
Mm.
and I was just kind of listening around and making my own kind of bets, saying, "I bet you he's done it. I think he might have done it."
Oh,
And I was
yeah.
thinking, I was kind of right, but I was saying to people, guys, just speak up,
Mm.
speak up, and it'll be much better because certainly in that environment, particularly when it's busy, to not be part of the
Mhm.
conversation is really you kind of feel vulnerable and kind of exposed, and you're kind of thinking,
Mhm.
I'm not getting anything out of this here because they're
Mm.
not getting anything out of me. Why is that? And that's where LSVT comes in,
Mm.
and it can really fix that situation. You need
Mhm.
to work it, but it can really fix that situation.
Yeah. That's great. Well, and I know we work together in Loud for Life classes. Can you talk a little bit about what you like about that class or what you found helpful about doing those classes to maintain the gains that you have?
Well, the first thing I have to say is meeting you, Angela, um, um, Jenny, and Heather has just been a revelation.
Mm.
You're amazing at what you're doing. It's really wonderful to be involved with that. The
Mm.
class we have on Friday, every Friday, is something I just don't ever want to miss. But it's at like 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, so it's kind of a tricky time, But
Yeah.
I try my best to get there as often as I can, and
Yeah.
every time I go there, it's such a wonderful experience. It's just an hour, but it's an hour in a really safe environment where people can express what they need to express and figure out how to kind of get on with living with this dastardly disease,
Mm.
and it's just wonderful to kind of have this focus, doing our exercises, our loud ahs, and our phrases and stuff like that. Very simple things, not massive um, machines or potions or drugs or anything like that. It's just, the power you have within you.
Mm.
And I think
Wow.
that's what you make happen.
Mhm.
Every Friday, that's what you and Angela and Jenny and Heather, that's what you're responsible for, and it's really amazing. And we kind of
Mm.
we've benefited, all of us who attend that. I think you'll say we've all benefited from it, and I think you acknowledge that it's
Oh,
been really good stuff for
mhm.
people who turn up there.
Mhm. Yeah. I love that phrase you just said, the power within you, that we have that power. Just reach in and get it
Yeah,
out. That's great. Yeah.
we
Well,
probably have it in other areas too, but I mean, it's when you see it and feel it happening,
mhm.
it's there.
Yeah. Oh, that's so neat. What a great way to think about that. Well, I love talking about LSVT Loud, but I'd also like to hear about your advocacy work. So, can you tell me about how you got started with Parkinson's Europe and what your role is there?
Yeah, sure. Like when I finally kind of came out of my lost kind of room that I was in, kind of denying Parkinson's existed even, I felt that, and particularly around the LSVT time as well, a lot of things came together at that point.
Mhm.
I was kind of finally putting my hand up saying, I need help. And once I asked that question, can you give me some help? Can you give me some tips? A lot of things opened up.
Mm.
And we have a lot of things that people can do. They may not be aware of them. I certainly wasn't aware of them until I kind of asked the question. But I kind of also discovered that, like in Ireland, we think we have about 18,000 people living with Parkinson's disease, whatever age they may be. Probably most of them are in the plus 60 category, but there's 10 to 15% who are less than, young onset, like what
Mm.
I've kind of
Mhm.
been kind of diagnosed. By the way, it's great to get a diagnosis that you can use the word young for the rest of your life, but that's
Yeah,
beside
there
the
you go.
point.
Oh, forever young.
Yeah, forever young, absolutely. But it was really interesting to me that nobody actually knew what the figure was. And I was with Parkinson's Ireland for a while, and I was just kind of listening to what was going on, and I was kind of thinking, we don't have a lot of data around what our problem is here.
Mm.
It's kind of an intel approach, but anyway,
Mm.
it's a case of we need to know a few facts before we can kind of get to the point that we can do something material. Um, Unfortunately, the public service health service is funded very irregularly,
Mm.
by the government. I mean, this year has been an embarrassment. We have more money in the government coffers than we can shake a stick at, and we still have chronic kind of waiting lists and etc. etc. But let's
Mm.
not go down there.
Mm.
For me, that meant we have to do something about this. We have to bang the drum and say what's going on. And I found it both rewarding and frustrating to kind of get support and say, yeah, we need to make that happen, Gary, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
But then nothing happens, not because we're not doing anything. I mean, it's kind of neat to have the patients who are looking for the therapy kind of being the advocates who are banging the drum. And
Mm.
I think that's really important. Every time I get an opportunity, which I'm so grateful for, to kind of say something on the radio or write something in that somebody reads and stuff like that, I get really good feedback on it, and it's great. It's fantastic. It's lovely, but we have to do something with it. I mean, we can't
Mm.
just be writing articles or ringing up radio shows and stuff like that. We
Mhm.
need action, and that's something that I just didn't see happening enough. We did get
Mhm.
additional funding in the last year or two for specialist nursing posts and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
there isn't a strategy laid out. There isn't kind of a plan in place to
Mm.
kind of connect all the people who are, because a lot of those 18,000 people don't connect with anybody. I
Okay.
mean, the frightening thing is that some of them, many of them, are sitting at home
Mm.
listening to the radio,
Mm.
talking to no one. I mean,
Okay.
that's an awful thing anyway, if that's the
Mhm.
way, without any illness. But I mean, throw in Parkinson's on top of that, and you've a recipe for disaster. And I just
Mm.
think, I know that. If I know that, everybody else should know it because I'm not that clever. And I think it's a
Mhm.
case of people they really want to do well. When you connect with them and you tell them your story, they're really kind of they receive that in, and they process that, and they say, yeah, that's really awful, but we need to act on it. And that's what
Okay.
has driven me. I mean, action speaks louder than words and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. And when
Mhm.
we have positive action, it makes a difference. And we have
Mhm.
to keep the ball rolling. We have to keep on top of it, make sure it
Mhm.
doesn't happen. So, I mean, my comment about 18,000 people living with Parkinson's, the official number is around 12,000. Um,
Okay.
but I don't agree with that. I think we have a big problem there. So
Mhm.
that's what kind of gets me worked up a bit.
Mhm. So then what would you say are your main, or what do you think are the most pressing issues that are facing the Parkinson's community today that you would like to see improved, either, in Ireland or Europe or beyond?
Well, I think the challenges are similar in any location. I mean, the kind of, if you drill down and get to the specific challenges that each country or each location has, they're probably slightly different, but they're generally speaking all in the same kind of area. And those areas are, first of all, kind of education around
Mm.
what people living with Parkinson's can do for themselves
Mhm.
without patronizing them, without kind of, forcing them to do stuff they don't want to do, but just to educate people and say, look, yeah, this is a lifetime diagnosis. This is going to be with you for the rest of your life. The
Mhm.
experts would say it's not going to kill you, but I mean, that's debatable. I mean, Parkinson's gets into every part of your life. I've talked about that before. I'll talk about it again. I mean, that's
Mhm.
that's really important to understand. What you can do is also important, is really important. And once you know what to do, a bit like
Mhm.
LSVT Loud, you can make real progress. And I mean
Mhm.
progress. You can slow down the flipping Parkinson's creep. You know, you can feel better because you slowed it down, but also because you may be connecting with more people because you've kind
Mm.
of you've realized your voice kind of needs a little bit of work to kind of get it back up, and then you can kind of converse with people in the cafe, the pub,
Mm.
wherever you are, and that'll give you more positive kind of benefit.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but we need to let people know how to do that, and we need to put in place the services and the support and the healthcare professionals that are so chronically needed to make this
Mm.
happen, and to
Mhm.
keep the focus on it, and find out exactly how many people we have in the country. And you could
Mhm.
replicate that over all of Europe. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm sure in Germany they think they know how many people are living with Parkinson's, but I'd say there's still a couple of thousand out there who don't want anybody to know and are
Mm.
living
Mhm.
on their own or as a small family unit, whatever, and they're just kind of keeping it to themselves, and
Mhm.
that's really tough. I can understand it. It's really tough.
Mhm.
We can help them much more than
Mhm.
not kind of doing anything for them. And
Yeah.
that's they're the kind of things we need to do. So Parkinson's Europe is very active in that area. It's an umbrella organisation for the Parkinson's associations right across Europe, and it really is kind of trying to bring together all the really good stuff that's going on in each association's location, and then trying to apply that the really good stuff, apply that
Mhm.
to the all the organisations that are involved.
Mhm.
So kind of advocacy and education,
Yeah.
making people, taking studies forward. Like we have a big study at the moment, or have had big studies on the impact of pesticides on people living with Parkinson's, and it
Huh.
does seem it's not. We're not saying it's a kind of a source or the cause of Parkinson's, but it does seem that in the farming community where a particular pesticide is used, the
Mm.
incidence of Parkinson's disease is higher. So
Okay.
that's something we need to focus on, and we could,
Mhm.
we could really make inroads onto that. But that's something we're looking at.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, all important work. So that education, outreach, that seems very important to you, and
Mhm.
to try to
Absolutely.
improve that. Yeah, to show them what can be done, and I think you're a living example of that. So I have to tell you, so when I googled you to see what I should ask you today, you're known for living well with Parkinson's. That's what comes up with you. So what
Well,
does that mean to you, and how do you try to achieve that?
well, I kind of, I'm generally speaking a glass half full kind of guy,
Mm.
and I kind of try and, I mean, it's hard, but I try and find the silver lining in in most situations. I mean, I can be a really negative, defeatist kind of guy as well if I haven't had enough sleep and if I haven't had medication and stuff like that. I mean, that is real. Like
Mm,
every morning I wake up and all these negative thoughts, I have to kind of explode them away,
mm,
to get rid of them. But living well with Parkinson's is like, we all should exercise more. Okay. So when I say, you really need to exercise, people kind of go, oh yeah, I'm doing a bit of exercise. Yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm kind of thinking, no, it needs to be prescribed. We need to say
mm,
what we're going to do, and we need to kind of
mm,
get some sort of routine or some sort of timetable into our lives that's going to promote, the ability to do exercise, how important it is, and really how easy it is to do it. You don't have to go cycle. I mean, I cycled around Iceland with a few buddies 5 or 6 years ago. It was amazing. It was incredible.
mhm,
We did it to keep Parkinson's awareness as high as possible.
mhm,
Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Um, I've done lots of kind of crazy things that I would never have done without this diagnosis. So that's a
mm,
really positive thing. So that's kind of reflecting on things that I've done, that I've been able to do, that I never would have probably done without
mm.
Parkinson's. But having done it and realizing I can do it, what else is there that I can do? So I ran the Dublin
Mm.
City Marathon in 2022. It was a
Oh,
fabulous experience. My two brothers
yeah.
were with me. We had great fun. We took forever, but that was neither
But
here
you
nor there.
finished. Yeah.
It was like, again, another thing I thought I couldn't do, but
Mm,
I did it. And I'm
mm,
probably not ever going to do it again. But so what? I
yeah.
mean, and we can all. I think everybody who's living with whatever neurological condition they have, but in particular Parkinson's, it's Parkinson's. You kind of say that word and you get a shiver. It's because it's not. We don't know where it's coming from,
Mm,
and we don't know how to stop it. But I think we do know how to slow it down, and exercise is key to that. And
mm,
I'm certain of that because every time I go in for my annual assessment, I'm fortunate in that the kind of consultant says to me, I'm thinking of Conor Fearon and people like that. Um, Whatever you're doing, Gary, keep doing it. I mean,
mm.
it's just,
Yeah.
But I like to kind of say to people, well, I'm not doing anything remarkably special. I mean, I'm doing Pilates and I'm doing gym work and I'm doing running and walking and stuff like that.
Mhm,
I do think again, if the government wants to tackle this problem, I think those courses and classes that are available should be made available to Parkinson's people right now,
mm,
forever,
mm,
because the rate of increase of Parkinson's around the world, it's the fastest growing um, neurological condition on the planet. That is not good. We need
mm,
to take action now, and I mean really now. It's like climate change. It's not going away. It's getting worse.
mhm,
Parkinson's is the same. It's not going away. Guess what? The population is aging. Guess what? There goes another increase in Parkinson's
mhm,
diagnosis. So I mean, it's simple. It's as night follows day. That's what's happening. So
mhm,
I mean, I can do all the fabulous kind of experiences and stuff like that, but really, what I'm saying is, we can do this
mhm,
and we can make a difference and make it happen. But we
mhm,
actually have to do something. It's not going
mhm.
to happen if we're just going to talk about it. We have to kind of follow up with action.
Yeah. Well, and you touched on this a little bit before, but how do you see the role of patient advocates like yourself evolving in the coming years to help with this action?
Well, one thing I think is they're going to get more angry if nothing is
Mm,
excuse me, if nothing's being done, and I think that's understandable. I really think we have to be in the face of legislators and decision makers on budgets and stuff like that, and really press home how difficult this is. I mean,
mm,
it's a deteriorating condition. I accept that, but I think saying things like it's progressive and it's kind of, it's progressing as it should. I mean, I've heard some awful kind of comments from very esteemed um, neurological consultants saying that, well, it's Parkinson's. That's what you can expect. You know,
mm,
I don't accept that. I mean, I think,
mhm.
yes, we've accepted for a long time that we don't have a cure for it and we don't know where it's coming from. But that doesn't mean we just kind of give up.
Yeah.
I think advocates are really important to make the message last and to make the
Mhm,
message current every time and be there, just like a stone in your shoe, annoying you until you do something about it. And that's
mhm,
what's really important about advocacy. It
mhm,
never stops until the reason for advocating goes away.
mhm.
And I'm not thinking that Parkinson's is going to go away anytime soon. So I think it will go away sometime soon if we have concerted efforts and treat everybody living with Parkinson's the same and get us all the right therapies and the proper mix of drugs that we have to take every day and get that in there, you know.
Hmm.
And that's what advocacy, and that's what I mean about advocacy, and that's what I'm trying to
Hmm.
do, and keep it consistent and make it happen.
Yeah, so that everybody can live well with Parkinson's as you are.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and I just have one final question for you, and that would be, do you have any advice that you'd like to share to someone who might be listening who is newly diagnosed?
Well, first thing I like to say to them is I'm really sorry to hear your diagnosis. It's tough. It is really tough. Don't for a minute think that it's something that I'll be grand and stuff like that. You'll be fine, but you will need support. This is a life changing experience that you've just been delivered, and it's going to impact your life. There's no way around that. It's going to impact. There's no point in sugarcoating this. It's an awful diagnosis, and every day or every other day, I kind of have a little kind of moment and say, "Oh, why is it like this?" You know,
Mm-hmm.
but it is like this. But you can do stuff that you possibly never did before, but possibly never put excuse me, put any kind of importance on it. But you can do stuff that can make the journey less arduous. You can make it can make it a journey of discovery and exploration, while acknowledging that it is a deteriorating condition. So I just think if you've been recently diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, okay, you're going to be several degrees of kind of impacted and upset and stuff like that. But it's definitely a life, um, something for the rest of your life. But it's not a death sentence. It absolutely isn't. And I know plenty of people that I've kind of journeyed along with, and we've kind of checked in with each other every now and then, and we're definitely on a journey. And we may at some point slow down a little bit, but the journey keeps us going.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get on that journey as well, it will take your mind off the kind of the ultra negative part of Parkinson's, and maybe put your kind of give you some control and some peace that you're not alone, and that this thing doesn't have to be the end of everything, because it's not. It's something that we can deal with together. As I said, you're not alone, and it's something that we can live with together, and hopefully, in time, find the breakthrough that will stop it in its tracks, or maybe, who knows, sometime it might be cured. But I'm really not kind of holding out for a cure. I'm holding out for what I can control, and that's taking taking on the responsibility of living my life as best I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Gary. That's a powerful message, and I think you're just a true definition of hope and what you can do. And so I appreciate you sharing all that wisdom with us. And I thank you for everything that you do for the Parkinson's community and in your hometown and beyond. You're a change maker, and the world is better because of you. So thank you, Gary.
You're most welcome, Beth. And again, I have to thank you and Angela and Jenny and uh, Heather. Thank you for what you're all doing. I mean, it is wonderful. Keep it up. It's fantastic. It's changing lives. It really is.
Oh, well, thank you, Gary. Yeah, we're lucky to have you. And I'll just end with some credits here today. So, again, a big thank you to you, Gary. Gary Boyle, thank you for joining us. The theme song that you're hearing is called Think Loud for Parkinson's by Kindred Spirit and Leo Sayer. And that's a song and video that were inspired by LSVT Loud speech treatment. And it was developed to raise awareness for Parkinson's worldwide. It's available for purchase on iTunes and Amazon, with the proceeds being split between a UK charity called Cure Parkinson's and the Parkinson's Foundation in the US. I also want to thank our production team, CS Design Studios, for putting this podcast together. If you're interested in learning more about LSVT Loud speech therapy or LSVT Big physical or occupational therapy, I encourage you to visit our website at www.lsvtglobal.com. And then also, I'd appreciate it if you clicked below to subscribe wherever you get your podcast so that you never miss an episode. And we look forward to thinking big and loud with you again next time. Thank you for joining us.